អង្គុយចុះ
President, the court is now in session. Per our schedule, in late 2012, today the trial chamber will continue the proceedings in case 002/01. And we will hear the testimony of a witness, TCW 620. The greffier, Mr. Dujpari, could you report the attendance of the parties and individuals to the proceeding today? Dujpari. Good morning, Mr. President. All parties to this case are present, except the Counsel Michael Canavas, International Counsel for Ieng Sari's defense. He is absent due to his personal business. As for the accused, Ieng Sari and Noon Chia, they are present in the holding cells downstairs due to their health. The greffier also noticed the presence of Victor Kuppe, the International Counsel for Noon Chia. Mr. Kuppe was recognized by the trial chamber already during the initial hearing. As for the witness who is supposed to be testified today, that is TCW 620, is present in the waiting room to be called by the chamber. This witness confirmed through his knowledge and ability he has no relationship by blood or by law through any of the three accused or any of the civil parties recognized in this case. This witness already took an oath this morning. This witness does not have any duty counsel. President, thank you, Mr. Parry. Before we proceed with the hearing of the testimony of the witness, we will rule regarding the participation of Mr. Ieng Sari and Noon Chia. Today, the chamber receives the medical report from the station doctor who examines the health of Mr. Ieng Sari and Noon Chia prior to the commencement of today's proceeding. Mr. Ieng Sari's health is not changed much based on the assessment. He cannot participate directly in the courtroom. However, he can participate from the holding cell downstairs. Similarly, the condition of Mr. Noon Chia is the same. In order not to prolong the proceeding and for the sake of justice, and based on the medical report of the station doctors at the detention facility, Mr. Ieng Sari and Noon Chia are instructed to follow the proceeding from the holding cells downstairs. That is for today's proceeding. The AV unit, you are instructed to link the proceeding to the holding cells downstairs so that the two accused can follow it. Court officer, could you invite the witness TCW 620 into the courtroom? President, good morning, Mr. Witness. What is your name? Witness, please wait until you see the red light on the head or the microphone or the console. The light indicates that the system is operational, so your voice will go through the system and through the interpretation booth as well, as we use 3 languages in this courtroom. Once again, what is your name, Mr. Witness? Witness, good morning, Mr. President. My name is So Vi. Thank you. Question. Besides So Vi, do you have any other names or alias? Response. My birth name is So Saram. Question. So your official name is therefore So Vi. Is this correct? Response. Yes, it is. Question. How old are you, Mr. So Vi? Response. I am 52 years old. Question. Where were you born? Response. I was born at Prayat village, Pu Ongkrong sub-district, Kong Pisai district, Kampong Speu province. Question. Where is your current residence? Response. I reside at Old Chư Krom village, Stung Kach sub-district, Salakra district, Pailand city. Question. What is your current occupation? Response. I am a farmer. Question. What is your father's name and your mother's name? Response. My father is So Kim and my mother is Swai Yun. Question. And your wife's name? How many children do you have? Response. Her name is Nam Hon. We have 4 children. Thank you, Mr. So Vi. As reported by the greffier, to your best knowledge, you have no relationship by blood or by law to any of the individuals who have been recognized as civil parties in case 002, nor any of the relationship with any of the 3 accused, that is Nuchi, Ing Sari, and Kio Sampon. Is this information correct? Response. Yes, it is. President, also as reported by the greffier, you already took an oath before you entered this courtroom. Is that correct? Response, yes, it is. Thank you, Mr. Sovic. You are hereby informed of your rights and obligations as a witness. As a witness to the proceedings before this chamber, you have the right to refuse to any other response or any of the confirmation that would incriminate you. That is your right against self-incrimination. It means if you believe your response would incriminate you, and as a witness, you are hereby obliged to provide testimony before this chamber, and you must respond to all the questions put to you by any of the parties or the bench, except in the case that you exercise your right against self-incrimination. And as a witness, you must tell the truth that you have heard, have known, and have recalled, or experienced, or observed personally regarding any of the event related to the questions put to you by any of the chamber or the bench. Do you understand your rights and obligation, Mr. Sovic? Response, yes, I do. Thank you. Mr. Sovic, have you been interviewed by investigators of the Office of the Co-Investigating Judges? If so, how many times and where did it take place? Response, I was interviewed once at my house. It was at Chukrom village, Stangkach sub-district and Salakau district. There was only one interview. Question. Before your appearance before this chamber today, have you read, reviewed, or were you read that written record of interview with the investigators of the Office of the Co-Investigating Judges in order to refresh your memory? Response, yes, I reviewed that record. Thank you. And to your best knowledge and recollection, can you tell the chamber whether that written record of interview that you have reviewed reflects the accurate record of your responses that you provided through the investigators? Response, I understand that it is consistent and accurate. Thank you. The prosecution, you advise that for the hearing of the testimony of this witness, you will be given the floor first to put questions to this witness. You may therefore proceed. Sinbun King, thank you, Mr. President. Good morning, Mr. President, Your Honors, and all the parties who are present here. And good morning, Mr. Witness. Mr. Sovic, I have some questions to put to you. Based on the written record of your interview with the investigators of the Office of the Co-Investigating Judges, as clarified by the President of the Chamber, you confirmed that in around 1974, you worked as a mail messenger for the Po Ong Krong sub-district in Kong Pisai district in Kampong Speu province, which was part of Sector 33. And you work as a sub-district messenger through various other villages. It is in your written record of interview, that is E3/104, on the page in Khmer EAN 00 through 0. And in Mr. President, with your permission, I'd like to deliver the documents to the witness and to have it projected on the screen. Prosecutor. Mr. President, as my colleague said that the EAN was not correct. The EAN in English is 00 through 040 58. Question. Mr. Sovi, can you recall when was Kong Pisai district was liberated by the Khmer Rouge? Response. Yes, I can recall that. Kong Pisai district was almost occupied by the Khmer Rouge force in 1974. There was very little force of the other side. Thank you. Question. You also stated before the OCIJ investigators that Kong Pisai district in Kampong Speu province was part of Sector 33. Which zone was it under? Response. Sector 33 was in the southwest of the country. Thank you. Also, in the same document, you stated that in 1975, you was assigned to become the Samrao district soldier, and later on you was promoted to become the Sector 33 soldier. It is in the same document, E3/104, Khmer EAN is 00 through 04050, and in English 00 through 04058. And in French 00524371. Can you recall in what year in 1975 when you stopped being a messenger and became the district soldier?
Response. In 1975, in June, I was transferred to work at Samrao district. Question. Who was the commander within Sector 33? Response. I'm afraid I don't recall his name because it was a long time ago. I had been there very briefly. Question. As a soldier in Samrao district and Sector 33 in 1970s. What was your role and responsibility? Response: I was an ordinary combatant. Question: as a combatant, did you engage in fighting with the Lono soldiers? Response: during that time, the war was over. Question: on the 17th of April 1975, where did you live? Did you remain in Kong Pisai or Samrao districts or elsewhere? Response: on the 17th of April 1975, I lived at the commune office of Po Ong Krong. Question: in the same document, document E3/104, you indicated that from 1975, I saw people were evacuated from cities to the countryside. Document in Khmer 0020 40 53, in English 0020 40 61, and French ERN 0052 43 74. According to your best recollection, where were these people transferred from? Response: I noted that they were evacuated through national on. They were evacuated and walked on National Road number 3, and I saw them being moved to Kong Pisai. However, I do not know what happened across the country, but I believe that it could have been the case all across the country at that time. The same situation happened. Question: having seen people being evacuated to Kong Pisai district, could you tell the chamber, please, your description of the situation of the people? Response: these people some came by cars or motorbikes, but mostly a lot of people came on foot. Question: at your sector, as a combatant, were you and other combatants assigned any tasks to deal with the evacuation of the people during 1975? Response: soldiers were not tasked with any kind of duties. We didn't do anything with that. Question: do you know when exactly the people of Kampong Speu were evacuated? Response: I don't know. Question: Were people in your location ever evacuated? Response: No, they weren't. Question: You said people were evacuated to your location. According to your recollection, how were these people treated by the cadres of the Khmer Rouge? The President, witness, please hold on and wait until you see the red light before you proceed. You may proceed. Response: I noted that the village chiefs would be helping the people to settle down at some places in the sector. Question: Do you know how were these people managed? The President, Mr. Witness, could you please be reminded that you should wait and observe some pause? You may now proceed. Response: I have no idea how people or how work were managed or administered, but I learned that people were transferred to or assigned some tasks. Question: Do you know whether the people who were evacuated there had to also provide their biographies? Response: I don't know. Question: I would like now to move to another topic. In the statement you gave to the investigators of the ECCC, you said that by late 1975 and early 1976, you were sent to work at Phnom Penh in K1 unit. This document is under E3/105 under ERN in Khmer 00204050. English ERN 00204058. And the same French ERN number, which is 00524371. So who assigned you to work at K1 office in Phnom Penh? Response: I had been working at Kampong Speu, and on one occasion the commander of the sector asked me to come and work at K1 office. I do not remember the name of the person who assigned me this task, but he was the commander of the army. Question: Did you remain or did you continue working at K1 until 1979? Response: Yes, I did. I continued working at K1 office until the 6th of January 1979. Question. Can you please tell the chamber what Phnom Penh was like during that time? I mean, from 1975, or late 1975 until early 1976. Response. I noted that people lived in some blocks of the city, and most part of the city was abandoned. Question. According to the statement you gave to the investigators, you say that by the time you were in Phnom Penh, you did not see any dwellers except workers and soldiers. And this document is under the same document in Khmer 00204053, English ERN 00204061, and French ERN 00524374. During the entire time you worked at K1, was Phnom Penh the same like what you described? Response. I did not see any change to the situation in Phnom Penh. Phnom Penh remained the same all along. Question. Where was K1 located, and what was its function? Response. K1 was located to the south of the Royal Palace. I believe it was about a kilometer from the Royal Palace. And K1 was a place where Pol Pot lived. He was there permanently. Question. Did any other senior leaders of the Khmer Rouge reside at K1? Response. I saw other leaders, including Uncle Ieng Sari, Nuon Chia, Khieu Samphan, who came and went to the office. Every time they came to the meetings and work, they would stay there. Question. You said you saw these uncles, including Ieng Sari, Nuon Chia, and Khieu Samphan. Did you see them very often? The President, Mr. Witness, perhaps you forget that you need to observe some pause. Response. I saw them on a regular basis. They came to the place very often. Thank you. Question. You also said in your statement that K1 was to provide protection for uncles, including Pol Pot, Nuon Chea, Ieng Sari, and Khieu Samphan. Document under Khmer ERN 00204050. In English 00204059, and in French 00524371, document E3/104, the same document. What was your role at K1? Did you provide protection for the senior leaders, including these uncles and other people who stayed at K1? Response: I worked as a protection officer. I worked at K1 regularly. Thank you. Question: in your interview, you also stated that at K1 there were 3 layers of protection guards or units, and that the first layer was surrounded by planks and barbed wire. Document E3/104, Khmer ERN 00204051, English 00204059, and French ERN 00524371. Do you still remember the first group who worked inside the complex of K1? Response: yes, I do. I remember some of them, although I can't remember all. Question: do you remember the person by the name of Tan? Where did he work? Response: yes, I do. I know him. Tan was overly in charge of the first and the second layers of the guard units. Question: is it fair to say that Tan was the chairman of both the first and second layer of guard units? Response: yes, it is. Thank you. Question: you also stated about the guard unit at K1, the first and the second layers of guard unit, and you said that the second layer of unit had to give protection on the outside. There were 3 towers of them, and the group comprised of 50 to 60 people. And there is a third layer of security guards, which was about 2 kilometers from K1, and these people worked for your 10. The President, Council, you may proceed.
I have an objection, Mr. President, because I understand that the prosecutor's objective is maybe does not correspond to the details that he is reminding to the witness, but I have the feeling that he is being reread his statement, and I don't believe that the object of this hearing is to read to the witness again what he stated to the investigating judges. And therefore, on the contrary, the idea is to understand their testimony and to see if their testimony corresponds to what was said before, and to see if the witness has modifications to provide. But it seems that the prosecutor here is directly rereading to the witness descriptions that he gave previously to the investigators, and I don't think that this is the purpose of this hearing today.
The prosecutor. Mr. President, please allow me to respond to the objection by counsel for Mr. Kilsampon. I believe that counsel could have been mistaken. What I was reading out to the witness is indeed to make sure that he understands or to refresh his memory. And I would like to follow up with some questions to make sure we can ask him for some clarification. And I think other parties to the proceeding might do the same. The President, the objection by counsel for Mr. Kilsampon is not sustained. Witness is now instructed to respond to the question put to him by the co-prosecutor if he still remembers. If not, the co-prosecutor is advised to put the question again. The President, counsel, the chamber has already ruled on this. If you would like to have other issue to raise, then you would be allowed to do so, but you are refrained from repeating the same matter that has already been resolved. The President, counsel, please be advised that the matter has already been dealt with. You may be seated. The co-prosecutor, you may continue putting the question to the witness.
If you do not give me the opportunity to speak, I cannot answer you. You take it as a fait accompli that I have no further objections to provide, and you're not giving me the opportunity to say this. So therefore...
The President. Indeed, it has already been the rule that you are allowed to respond once to a matter raised. So you only are allowed one time to lodge your objection, and then the chamber would rule upon it, and you would not be given the floor again to readdress the same issue. So I was telling you that the chamber already ruled upon this matter, and if you would like to touch upon the same issue, you would not be allowed to do that.
Mr. President, there might be a translation issue here, but what you have said to me right now, before you allowed me to answer you by cutting off the microphone, you're allowing me to speak unless I wish to speak about the same thing again. This is why I don't understand. It might be a problem of interpretation. So we are facing here a real problem, and the prosecutor is simply reading the statement again to the witness and to refresh the witness's memory, whereas the witness did not even say that he does not remember. So what is the purpose of this hearing? Why don't we just read the record again and then move on to something else?
The President, Mr. Co-Prosecutor, I think the opportunity for you is now to proceed with your questions. Co-Prosecutor, thank you, Mr. President. I would like to continue, and I would like to repeat the question that I put to the witness. We did not receive the response from the witness because counsel for Mr. Kilsampon took issue with my line of questioning. The question I put to you was that in your statement before the co-investigators, you indicated about the first and the second layer of the guards at K1. You said that the second layer got they comprised of 50 to 60 people, and they work at 4 posts. And your DOP was, or rather Y10 unit was located about 2 kilometers from K1, and the unit was tasked with protecting the leaders who came to work. Your DOP was chaired by Kami, who disappeared. Under your DOP there were about 100 people. This document can be referred to document E3/104, document in English 0020 50 59, and in English 0052 4371. My question to you is, in which layer were you working? Response: I belong to the second layer guard duty. Question: where did you work, or where were you stationed when you worked at in the second layer of guard? Response: normally I patrolled at night, and I had to guard the complex at night doing patrol work, and every now and then I would have to be ready at the gate to open the doors for incoming visitors. Question: did you remain at the second layer of guard unit all along since the beginning when you started working there in late 1975 and early 1976 all the way to 1979? Response: yes, I had been working there all along.
President, prosecutor, please turn on your microphone. Thank you, says the prosecutor. Question: you also indicated before the investigators that for the second layer there were 4 posts or 4 towers around the perimeter of the first layer. Can you tell us the height of the tower? Was it higher than the plank for the first parameter? Response: the 4 towers were of 2 meters high. It was lower than the plank wall. Question: you stated before this chamber that the towers were 2 meters high and lower than the plank wall. The question is, when the guards stood on each tower during the guard unit, the guard time, could they observe the first wall of the first parameter? Response: no, they could not. Question: can you recall for each tower how many guards were assigned? Response: 5 guards were assigned to each tower and they made a daily shift. Question: were you assigned to guard in the tower, and if so, how often were you assigned? Response: I was assigned, but not that often. I usually patrolled on foot during the night. I was on patrol then more often than on the guard at the tower. Question: for those guards at the towers, were they armed? Response: yes, they were armed. Question: during the time that you worked at K1 unit, that is the protection unit, who was your direct superior that you had to report to, or that you received instructions from? Response: there was a chain of command. Tan was overall in charge, and below Tan there were group chiefs and unit chiefs. And for each report, for each daily work, it will be reported first to the group and the unit chief. Question: you mentioned the name of Tan. Do you know the full name of this person? Can you recall it? Response: he initially was known as Q. Tan alias Q, in fact. Question: do you know the family name of Tan? Response: no, I cannot recall. Question: is his name Un Tan? Do you know a person by the name Un Tan who also resides in Samlot, and he also gave testimony before this chamber? Response: in fact, Un is the name of his wife, but I do not know the family name of this person since I separated from him for a long time. In fact, I separated from him since 1984. Question: do you know whether that person by the name of Tan testified before this chamber? Response: no, I do not know that. Question: in the same interview with the investigators, you indicated another person's name, that is Sot, who was the deputy chief of the protection unit K1. Can you tell the chamber the person by the name of Sot, as you indicated in your interview, is Ta Sot? Because Ta Sot used to live in Samlot, but he passed away a few years ago. Is this the same individual? Response: yes, that is the person, that is, his name is Sot, but I cannot recall his family name. Question: also in the same document, that is E3/104, you indicated that you saw Noonchi, Isari, and Kisampon coming and going into K1 frequently. In Khmer 00204051, in English 0020 4059 and in French 00524372. When you saw Nunchi, Ieng Siri or Kisampon at K1, where were you physically located? Response. When I was assigned a guard duty at the entrance, the entrance guard duty was usually for 5 days, and that's when I saw them. Question. You saw Nunchi, Ieng Sari and Kisampon coming and going frequently at K1. Did you see them from the time that you started working in early 76 until early 1979? Response. Yes, I saw them from the time that I started working there until 1979. Question. Can you tell the chamber when Nunchi, Ieng Sari and Kisampon came to K1, how did they come? Did they come by vehicle or by any forms of transportation? Response. They came by vehicle. Question. Did you know they have their personal or private vehicle and a driver? Response. Yes, they did. They did have their own vehicle and their own driver. Question. Can you recall the drivers for these people? Response. I recall two. One was the driver for Kisampon by the name of Soon, and another driver for Nunchia was Sot himself. Sot used to drive for him, and later on he was replaced by another driver, but I cannot recall that person's name. As for Ieng Sari's driver, I cannot recall his name, and I did not know that person. Question. When Nunchi, Ieng Sari and Kisampon came by vehicle to K1, where were their cars parked? And who actually came to greet them, or where did the driver go to pick them up? Response. The vehicles came into the compound of K1. Question. Can you elaborate further on this point? President, witness, please observe some pause before you speak. Response. They entered the compound and nobody actually came to greet them. Question. As for K3, can you tell the chamber what was K3? And did you ever go to work at K3? Response. I never went to K3, but it is my understanding that K3 belongs to the uncles that they resided there. But I did not know for sure who actually resided there amongst all those uncles. I simply knew that it was called K3 and it was also an important location for those people. Question. Regarding your work at K1, how many hours did you work on a daily basis at K1? Response. Normally, I worked between 8 to 10 hours on a daily basis, that is regarding the guard duty. Question. Where did you stay or sleep, and where did you have your meal? Response. There was a house which was about 100 meters away from the guard post. Question. In that same interview, that is document E3/104, you indicated that there was a study session held at K1, that you stated that people or cadres from the districts came to study there, and there were frequent study session openings every 3 months or 6 months, and each session lasted from 1 week upward. You also stated that there were sector committees and district committees coming for the meetings. That is Ian in Khmer 00204051, in English 00204059, and in French 00524372. Did you know whether Nuon Chea, Khieu Sampon, or Ieng Sari was present during those meetings at K1 when all those cadres from the sectors or zones or district levels come to attend? Response. No, I did not know. I did not know whether they attended those sessions. Question. When those cadres coming from various zones, did they bring along their bodyguards, or were they provided protections by the guard units at K1? Response. No, they never brought along their bodyguards. Question. If you worked as a bodyguard to senior leaders at K1, was your superior ever advised you when there was a meeting attended by those cadres from various zones and sectors? Response. Yes, we were instructed by our superiors that they came from zones to work at K1, so that we would need to prepare and cleanse the roads, for instance, and to be ready to provide protection, good protection to those people based on the assigned task. And it's important that the second layer of protection be vigilant in readiness for the protection of those people. Question. at the time when there was a leadership from district or zone levels coming to attend the meetings at K1, was there any other protection unit coming to assist the current protection unit at K1? Response, no. Question. When the zone, sector or district leadership coming through K1, usually through the main entrance, who was actually in charge of checking the identity of those individuals? For example, whether they was the representative of a specific zone or a sector? Response, no, there was no such person. Question. In your capacity to provide protection, was it important for them to make you familiar with those leaders coming from various zones or the senior leaders, including Ingsari, Kyosampon, Nunchi, or other zone secretaries? Response, no, there was not such a requirement. Question. Can you recall whether zone, sector or district leaders that you saw coming to K1 while you worked there? Can you recall any of them? Response. No, I did not know and I cannot recall. I only knew that for certain meetings on a specific day, leaders from various zones and sectors or districts would attend the meeting. I only knew the date of the meeting, and we were assigned to cleanse the roads and to prepare for a protection. My question is actually that whether until today you can recall any of those people who were leaders from various zones, sectors and districts and who actually attended the meetings at K1. Response. Actually, at that time, I did not know from which zones or province they came. Since I did not know that, I cannot recall any of their names. Question. Do you know Tamok? Did Tamok go to K1 often? Response. I knew Tamok, but at that time I did not pay much attention when he came to K1. But I knew him. I'd like now to move on to another topic. During the time that you worked at K1, did you ever attend any criticism or self-criticism meeting or any of the political study session? Response. Yes, I did. I attended the self-criticism meeting. As for the political study session, usually the leadership of K1 would conduct such a meeting on a monthly basis or a fortnight basis. Question. Can you recall that during the fortnight session, how long did the session last? Response. As for the office fortnight session, it lasted for 1 day. Question. Can you recall where did the study session take place? Response. It was held near a house, not far from a tower. Question. Can you recall during the study session who were the presenters? Response. Tan was the presenter. Question. Can you recall during the study session or presentation what were the main topics? Response. I forget a lot, and this matter has been for so long already, Mr. President, so I cannot recall the content or the topics of those study sessions. However, mostly the study sessions focused on strengthening the protection, which was the core duty. As for politics, it was not taught so roughly, and I could not recall it clearly as well, as I was pretty jammed back then, and I only focused on my assigned duties. I tend to forget quite a lot. Question. Did you ever attend any study session or meetings held at Boracay? Response. Yes, I did. I used to accompany Pol Pot once during the time that I worked there, that he went to work at Boracay. Question. When you escorted Pol Pot to Boracay, what was his main task there? Response. I saw soldiers coming from sectors and zones, and there were quite a lot of them, though I did not know the level or their level of command. He worked mainly with the soldiers at the time. Question. Besides Pol Pot, were any other leaders from K1 attend that session? Besides Tan, there was no one else, and there were some bodyguards from the protection unit. Besides, there was no other people coming from K1. And at that time, only Pol Pot himself was the one that came from K1. Question regarding the criticism and self-criticism meetings that you attended at your unit. Can you tell us about that? I attended those meetings. Question. Where were the meetings held and how frequent was it held? Response. It was held at the second layer protection unit. It was housed in a house nearby the guard tower, and it lasted for 3 days. Questioned during the criticism or self-criticism meetings, who actually led that meeting? Response. It was the group chief. Question. Did you know the purpose of the criticism and self-criticism meetings? Response. The meetings aimed to make good of the people. If we made mistakes, we would be corrected by our peer. We will be criticized and not to engage in such act again, and to become a good person. For example, if we slept while guarding, we would be criticized, and we were instructed to be punctual during our guard shift. Question. During the time that you initially arrived at Phnom Penh and worked at K1, that is at the outside perimeter protection, did you attend any major meetings or any major events or any of the speeches made at the Olympic Stadium? Response. No, I did not. President, thank you. The time is now appropriate for a short break. We will take a 20-minute break and return at 10 to 11. Court officer, please assist the witness during the break at the waiting room and have him returned to the court room at 10 to 11. The court is now adjourned.
សូមចេញក្រោកឈរ